Hi, welcome back. In this section, I'd like to think about adding that final little spark to your painting. Now, it's not going to take the place of the 5 principles we've just discussed, because if you have a great composition and you've thought about the values and you've got some beautiful color ideas and you've added some interesting texture and you've really thought about variety while you were painting, you're going to have a successful painting, I can assure you. But oftentimes you might think of adding just a little spark of life that's going to make that landscape really sing to its viewer. Over the years, as I've taught watercolor, a lot of students have asked me, well, how do I paint a horse? How do I paint a barn? How do I paint a cat? I think it's important for me to point out right now that this course and my work and my practice is painting watercolor landscapes. It's not really about how do I paint portraits of people or barns or horses. So this spark that I'm talking about is not the focus of my work. In that process of painting watercolor landscapes, I have sometimes found that adding a little detail at the end, a little flourish, a little bird in the sky, or a little boat on the lake, is sometimes all it takes to bring some life into the painting. An important thing to remember when you decide to put a figure into your landscape painting using watercolor, it's definitely going to help the painting come alive. It's going to make people able to put themselves into it probably. But we don't want to get so hung up on perfection that we forget that what really matters is the proportions of the figure. And the reason I say that, I've got to slow down so I spell this right. Proportions is the key. That means that the viewer of your watercolor painting is going to know that it's a human if you make it about the right shape, rather than worrying about every little detail of their face or their arms or their legs. It's so complicated. As a watercolorist, I'm not going to get too hung up on painting the figure. If you want to be a figure painter, go for it. It's a whole different bag of tricks. I have tremendous admiration for wonderful figure painters or portrait painters. Both of those things are not in our realm right now. We're just trying to have the basics of how could I put a person walking on the beautiful beach that I just painted. So when I say proportions, I'm talking about how tall a person is based on the size of their head, their shoulders, and so on. And the trick for this is 7. I just marked out 7 inches on here so that we can see about what that means. But the human figure is about 7 heads tall. And so if you think about 7 inches up, the head is only up here. And I'm just going to make an oval right here to show that. That's where the head is. Well, typically when we first start drawing people, we make their head way too big. And so now the shoulders would maybe be about this far. The arms would come down about like this. The legs would go the rest of the way, and the feet are down here. That's a human figure. That's the proportional shape of it. And that's about all you need to know as an artist with watercolor paint, trying to put that into your painting. You can bend that person over. You can put it with a partner. But if I were to draw a partnership, let's say we got a couple here walking a dog, I'm gonna make it very loose. Put this guy's shoulders hanging over there. Her hair is kind of coming over this way. And their bodies are going to come down to legs down here. But the key thing is I'm just worried about the proportions to show it. And if she's holding on to her dog, it's over here. The ground would be right about here. Now, the way that we tell people about that is loose gestural painting. It doesn't have to be perfection. In particular, when we try this with paint in just a second, don't start worrying about their feet. Oh, that can throw you off and make your painting look so clunky. We tend to think, oh, I got to put a big shoe right down here. And that actually is not, in real life, what our eyes catch of looking at a person walking down the beach with their dog is the overall outline shape of their bodies and proportions. Let's give that a try. Let's play around a little bit with figures with our paintbrush. Another way to bring a little bit of life to our painting is to add some creatures. And I'm not really a sci-fi painter, so I'm not really talking about huge imaginary creatures or dinosaurs in the landscape, but I'm thinking that even adding a bird to your sky is going to bring a little bit of life to your painting. In fact, that might be the easiest one for us to practice first. When we practice painting our birds, we're going to start with just a simple little curved stroke. So I'm going to just number this right here so we kind of get off to a start here that gives us some success. Curved stroke first, just curving from down, let's say from 12 o'clock down to 3 o'clock. And then a little bit thicker, I'm just going to make a flick out. When I use a round brush, this would tend to be a little bit thicker stroke. That's all you need for a bird. It's got a little bit of variety to it because there's a little darker value at this point down here where the body would probably be. Practice this with paint and have some fun with it. Okay, great. I hope you can throw a few birds into your paintings. Give it a try. The reason this is a little bit lower stakes is because of that simple little two-stroke bird. And after you've made a beautiful painting, you're not likely to wreck it by giving that a try. Even so, there's nothing stopping you from doing a little bit of a pencil outline to start on the first time you ever throw it into a painting. What if we put a creature of like a cow or a horse into our painting? This is a way to make a field look like it's really come alive. With paint, we're going to try this with paint in a second, but with paint, I always start with just the bulk of that creature's body. For a cow, it's a bigger rectangle, it's thick, and typically they're going to have their head down eating. So I'm going to bring a neck over here. I'm going to give it a little bit of a horn, a little bit of a mouth, and the legs, I'm not going to put a whole bunch of leg in there. That's partly because it's the grass is covering it up. And that's the illusion I want to create is that there's cows out in this field. I don't need to make them perfect. If I do, it's going to look really awkward with the rest of the landscape. So you want a gesture that shows what's going on. And if you feel a little nervous about it, there's more context that you could put in. I mean, the fence could tell people that, okay, this is fenced-in cattle right here. But let's give that a try. Let's try a few creatures, a cow and a horse. Actually, I should show you a horse right here. I'm going to start with that same lump, same rectangle lump. If a horse is grazing, its neck is longer. Its head is at a longer angle. It's got longer legs. I probably only draw 3 of them, and the tail might show. And there'll be grass around it. I think I made a donkey. Let's give it a try with paint and see what kind of gestural paintings of creatures you can do. There are a number of ways I think about throwing a spark into my paintings. It might be that textured foreground that I start with, or maybe some unusual colors. You might see some fuchsia in my forest. I sometimes will throw a figure in, a human or an animal. Sometimes I'll plan a composition around a bit of architecture, a little cabin in the woods. But whatever you do to add that final flourish, that might be what really brings your painting to life. So there you have it. Finally, we've gotten all of our basics taken care of. We know how to use our brushes. We've gotten the basic strokes figured out. And we've even talked about those things that really make a painting successful. Finally, we get to dive in and really make a painting from start to finish. I'll see you in part 2. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Bob. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you'll go by my website at watercolorwithbob.com. That's where you'll find an interactive outline of the whole course. You can also share your work with me and your fellow students. One thing I really love about watercolor is how accessible it is. That's why I realized it was important to me to put this course out for free. That said, it would mean the world to me if you would support this work. You can like it, you could share it with your friends, you could subscribe to the channel, you could also visit the gift shop or even make a donation. Thanks so much. See you on the next lesson, and happy painting. Oh, that's beautiful. I think somebody's going to pay a lot of money for that.